Anthropic just put a secret watermark on every word Claude writes. Right now, somewhere in the world, a teacher is grading an essay, and they have no idea it was written by an AI. A publisher is reading a submission, and they have no idea it was written by an AI. But that might be about to change, because Anthropic, the company behind Claude, just admitted something wild. Every single response their AI writes now carries a hidden signal, invisible to your eyes, baked directly into the words themselves, and it follows the text wherever it goes. Copy it, paste it, drop it into an email, a school assignment, a novel manuscript, it does not matter. The mark travels with it. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how this works, why Anthropic did it now, what it can and cannot actually catch, and why this might be the first domino in a much bigger shift for every AI company on Earth. So stick around, because this is one of those stories that sounds small on the surface but quietly changes the rules for everyone who uses AI to write anything. Let's start with what actually happened. On August 10th, 2026, Anthropic updated its help center with a new article called How Claude Marks AI-Generated Content. Buried in that quiet, corporate language was a genuinely significant announcement. Anthropic said that starting with Claude models released on or after August 2nd, 2026, the company is weaving what it calls an imperceptible watermark directly into the text that Claude generates. Not a footer, not a disclaimer, not a little tag you can delete. A signal embedded in the actual structure of the writing itself. Anthropic's own wording is worth repeating, because it is strikingly blunt. They say you will not see it, and it does not change the meaning, quality, or readability of Claude's response. In other words, the sentence you are reading right now, if Claude wrote it, could be carrying an invisible fingerprint, and you would never know just by looking at it. So how does an AI company hide a signal inside plain English text without changing what the text says? This is where it gets genuinely clever. Large language models like Claude do not just pick the single best next word every time they write a sentence. At almost every point in a response, there are dozens of words that would work equally well. Think about a sentence like, the weather today is nice. You could just as easily say the weather today is pleasant, or lovely, or wonderful. All of those are correct, natural, and basically interchangeable. What researchers have figured out is that you can quietly bias which of those equally good words the model picks, following a hidden pattern that only the company knows. To a human reader, the sentence looks completely normal. But if you know the pattern, you can run the text through a detector and measure whether the word choices match the expected statistical fingerprint far more often than random chance would allow. That is, in broad strokes, the idea behind text watermarking. And it is the same general family of technique Anthropic appears to be using with Claude, embedding a signal in patterns of word choice that never sacrifices the quality of the writing. Now, this is not happening in a vacuum, and understanding why Anthropic did this now is just as important as understanding how it works. The European Union's AI Act includes a section called Article 50, Paragraph 2, which is part of something called the Code of Practice on Transparency of AI-Generated Content. In plain English, the EU is requiring companies that build generative AI to make their synthetic output identifiable in a machine-readable way. Anthropic has signed onto that code, alongside a growing list of major players in the industry, including names like Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, and others, according to reporting from TechCrunch. So this rollout is not just Anthropic being proactive out of the goodness of its heart. It is a direct response to a legal deadline. But here is the part that surprised a lot of people. Anthropic did not limit this watermark to European users. The company explicitly said the marking system applies globally. So whether you are in Paris, Lucknow, Los Angeles, or Lagos, if you're using a supported Claude model, your output is getting marked the same way. And the coverage is broader than just the chat website. Anthropic says the watermarking applies everywhere a supported Claude model runs, including the Claude app itself, the developer-facing API known as Claude Platform, the coding tool Claude Code, the newer work-focused tool Claude Cowork, and even Claude Tag, which lets teams summon Claude inside Slack. It even extends to Claude when it is accessed indirectly through cloud providers like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Foundry. Because the watermark is built into the model itself, rather than bolted onto one specific app, Anthropic says it does not matter which door you walk through to talk to Claude. If the underlying model supports it, the output carries the mark. Text is only half the story. Though, Anthropic is also rolling out a second, completely different marking system for generated files, specifically images in formats like PNG, JPG, and SVG. Instead of a hidden statistical pattern, these files get something called signed provenance metadata, built on an industry standard called C.2P.A, which stands for the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity. This is the same open standard already used by companies like Adobe, OpenAI, and Google, according to reporting referenced by The Verge. Essentially, this metadata acts like a digitally signed passport stamped onto the file, recording that Claude processed or generated it, and allowing anyone to check whether that stamp has been tampered with since. But this system is noticeably more fragile than the text watermark. Anthropic itself acknowledges that C2PA metadata can be stripped simply by uploading a file to many social media platforms, which routinely scrub metadata during processing. So the image side of this system is honestly much easier to break than the text side. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, because this is the part everyone immediately jumps to. Does this mean schools can now catch every student who uses AI to write their essays? The honest answer is, not really, and Anthropic is surprisingly upfront about the limitations here. The company explicitly warns that heavy rewriting, paraphrasing, translation, or mixing AI text together with human written